So now we're being recorded, so I will officially welcome everyone to the March 24th, 2022 meeting of the Historical Commission. And I will call a roll call of the members of the commission just to be official. So please say here, Alan Bogosian.
Yeah.
Michael Capizzi. You muted. Nancy Nelson.
Hi, here.
Rebecca Lemaitre.
Yeah.
And I know that Chessie Cataldo is going to try and participate, but she's.
I'm here, Melissa.
You are here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes. Hi.
And Bob Gross, I don't see, but maybe he will.
I see
yes,
him.
hi, Bob.
See him.
I
He's
see you.
there.
Bob, are you there?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Hello.
I love the
Okay,
picture.
so actually everybeck's here, and so is Daphne. Sorry. So let's just move right along. We have a lot on the plate this evening. The Beckman, Hope and Greg Beckman are here to present for their property 653 Main Street. This is a demolition delay hearing. Are you here? Yes, there you are. So what we typically would do, I mean, this is an opportunity for you to present to us why you wish to have to demolish your property, and we will review the documents. I think Heather is able to put them on the screen at some point. Anyway, to determine whether or not we should preferably preserve the property or allow the demolition to go forward. If it's demolished, would the town lose an architecturally significant building that would be detrimental to our historical heritage? But if we do determine that it should be preferably preserved, the demolition would be delayed for 1 year starting tonight. If, however, the commission allows it to go forward, then you may proceed with the appropriate authorities. So I think what I'd like to do first is to ask the Beckmans to present their why they wish to have the house demolished. Are you there? Hope Beckman, Craig Beckman, are you there? Oops. Hello?
They're both muted. They're both
Yeah, they're
muted.
both.
Here. This is Hope. I don't know.
Oh, hi, there you are. Okay,
Can you hear
good
me?
evening.
Hi there. So, yeah, I did submit a package. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, it's a little quiet, but I'm just turning mine up. I hope, can everyone hear?
Not really.
Barely, but I turned mine up too.
Yeah, I think if
I can
we turn
it
up, okay. And just a quick question, Heather, you're able, yes, thank you. Okay,
There we go. Okay. So if you can hear me, Melissa, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I think it's just quiet, but I turn up.
No,
My speakers.
I can hear you, Melissa, really loudly, but I can't hear the other speaker very well, but I can manage.
Not really.
Yeah, it's hard.
Hope, are you speaking now?
No, I'm talking to myself.
Oh.
I'm looking for the volume button here so I can turn it up.
Top right, way up, top right. If you have a Mac.
No,
Yeah.
I don't.
Oh.
Okay, well, I'm going to try to talk as loud as I can. So, the existing house is very far over on the left, or excuse me, on the right side of the lot, which is actually the westerly side. We're 13.2 feet from Susan Hamilton, who I know is on the call, and 125 feet from the Schnippers, which are to the east of us. I heard from talking to people that the house was originally centered on the lot, but that the owners decided to build a house for their daughter next to us, which is the house that's 13.2 feet to the west of us. So in any case, we've lived here for about 12 years and the house is in significant disrepair. It has issues with the basement, with the attic. It has a bunch of substances, which I don't really want to work with. It's got vermiculite in the attic. It's got asbestos tiles on the basement floor. It's got
Are you still speaking?
yeah. Can you not hear me?
No, you wouldn't. I couldn't.
Huh.
Insulation and exterior walls.
Hope, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm going to try to fix my microphone. Can you give
Okay.
me just a second?
Okay.
Stop the video.
Well, while she does that, I presume everyone who's on the historical commission has read through these documents. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
Yes. I did my homework.
Thank you.
we could move this around to later.
Yeah,
to get it
you know,
fixed.
I mean, I could, well, we could knock off a couple things very quickly. I know that I want Right Tavern to have adequate time. Heather, what if the mill run sign, can we do that very quickly?
Yeah, I
Oh.
believe Dan Gainsborough is here.
I am.
Hi, Dan. So Hope, while you're working on we're gonna move to one of our other items on the agenda. This is about signage for the mill run development on Main Street. So I don't know, Heather, can you bring that up? And then Dan, if you would like to discuss this, yeah.
I can respond to questions. I think it's pretty straightforward. I think that Mr. Gross has looked at the language that we were proposing. It's a historical marker that's going to be within the property, just to sort of explain the history of that area, Damonville. And I think we provided proposed design, and then the proposed language.
Do any members of the commission have a comment about the plaque? I mean, the language seems excellent. I totally trust what Bob would approve.
Right.
I recognize the language.
I hope you approve.
Yeah, it had a good editor, and
I
yeah,
thought,
Dan, what you I mean, when
I thought it was great. And Shelby has sort of been taking the lead, but I appreciate the edits, and I think it's the kind of thing that probably benefits from multiple sets of eyes on it.
I mean, I think it's excellent. This is just a minor point. I found centering the text odd to me because I think of centering a text when you're, just have a basic, a person's name, their date of birth and, their title. This is an entire explanation. It's just the layout I found a little odd, but may not be very important.
Oh.
So just so I'm clear, are you proposing sort of justified left?
Well, yeah, maybe with indents, that's all. I mean, it's just a thought. I would like other people's opinions. First of all, I'm just really pleased that you're doing this, that you are, acknowledging the important role of the Damon family and the properties there. So I think, that I feel you should be commended and thank you. So my minor comment, maybe nobody else may have an opinion.
I welcome any of that kind of input and I appreciate your comment.
Melissa, can I say something?
Of course,
I'm struck by something here. Well, one, actually, I was thinking of the image of the text is with the unjustified lines. It's like a fir tree or a pine tree as branches, which gave me the thought that we might really consider in the long run something, which is, you know, a lot of organizations these days will begin their meetings with an acknowledgement that it was once the land of the Musketa Kid or other groups.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the land is layered with the ghosts of the past from different times and places. And we might want to really start thinking about whether it's demolitions or not, how to try to layer the historical landscape of Concord so as to recognize the multiple peoples over time that have been in a place.
so that means that I don't think you can, you had told me you were going to step down from the commission in May.
Mhm.
I think you just bought yourself another 3 years.
No, I'll just haunt the commission with these ideas.
Anyone other comments? I mean,
I'm happy either way.
Alan, anybody else?
I don't know if I can make a comment because number one, I live in a Damon house. So I guess I'm in favor, but number two, I'm working at Mill Run, so I don't know if I can say anything on that behalf, so.
Actually, the library has acquired in special collections recently a number of Damon documents, including account books that go into the late 19th century. You know, one wouldn't do this on a historical marker, but you almost wish that there was a little thing like, if you'd like to know more, go to special collections.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe,
Maybe not.
okay, maybe not. Any other opinions? Because I mean, I think it's very, it's a handsome plaque. If no one else has any other comments, then I say, Nancy,
I'd like to make a motion to approve it as presented.
second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, please say, I have to do a roll call. Michael,
Aye.
Nancy,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Alan?
Heather, can I vote?
Well, yeah, no, okay, no, you can't.
Abstain. You can
Sorry.
abstain.
Then I'll say aye, because I think it's wonderful. I'm glad you're doing it.
Yes.
I think this was one of our conditions anyway, some time ago. So thank you very much, Dan.
Thank you, and have a great rest of the meeting. I appreciate you guys' help.
Thank you.
Melissa, it does establish a precedent when we set conditions for how to do it.
No.
What do you mean? How do you mean?
Well, you know, that we don't expect a slipshod job when somebody comes and says, well, okay, we're going to demolish, but we'll do something. It's done really nicely. And that's what I
Yeah.
mean by precedent.
Oh, well, yeah, so we can cite this because it is handsome. It
It
is.
is.
It is.
Very,
Thank-
very well done. Very
Yeah.
well done.
Thank you. Well,
um,
maybe there'll be an opportunity when we get closer to finishing up there to invite everybody else or make some sort of event out of it if there's interest on the historic.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, Good idea.
Absolutely. Be an honor.
Great. Thank you, guys.
thank
Thank
you. Hope,
Have a good rest.
have you, you're muted right now, so I know we can't hear you. Hope,
How are we doing?
much better.
Okay, good.
It is for me. Can other people hear?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, better.
Okay, thank
Great.
you.
Okay, so if we could go back to the plot plan, which is slide 2. What I was saying previous, the house is no longer, was previously centered on the lot. However, when the Hamilton property was built, the house ended up being 13.2 feet from the property to the west of the existing house and 125.4 feet to the east, or shall I say from the property to the east. So it's really tucked pretty tightly to the right side of our lot. And I would like to center the house, move it back, and rebuild it. It just has too many inferior materials. It's very much rotted throughout. It's got vermiculite in the attic. It's got asbestos tile floors in the basement. It's got lead paint in the interior, exterior walls and so forth. And the garage is literally on its last leg. So there's not a whole lot worth saving there. There's no foundation. It's just built on a concrete form. It's an attractive home. You know, obviously I like the look of it. I wouldn't have bought it if I didn't. I think we accentuated the look, as you can see from the photos 3 and 4.
Mhm.
This was the home when we bought it. We did buy it in 2007, but this was prior to me doing any renovations, which I had to do some. There was some termite damage and so forth, which necessitated rebuilding the front overhang. The windows needed to be replaced. They were in pretty bad shape. The chimneys have been repointed, but they're just not very functional at all. The fireplace is not usable and so forth. The front steps have been put back together several times. They're made of brick. If we could slide down to the next slide. These are some of the things we did. I added some dental moldings here. We added gutters. The house had no gutters. Again, redid the front overhang. You know, little things to make the house more attractive, shutters, windows, and so forth. Minor stuff. And then this is kind of a sampling of some of the issues. I mean, there's a lot of rot on this house, primarily from not having had gutters for so long. I didn't fix everything when we first moved in because I had anticipated redoing the house a lot sooner than this, but I've been busy with some other things. So it's just continued to deteriorate. You can see there's an eave here, which on slide 4, the right picture, there's a large crack that is probably coming down soon. In the front of the house, you can see that overhang. It looks sort of dark toward the edge of the gutter. That's a leak. It leaks into the bedroom below. It's just got a lot of problems. If you want to go down, yeah. Again, all of this siding is original. A lot of it's rotted. These are the garage doors. They're literally being held together. There are pieces of wood behind the doors, which are reinforcing them so that the bottom doesn't fall off. These are some of the ceilings that are leaking in 3 of the 4 bedrooms. This is the electrical. The electrical is kind of a mess. Alan has been in here before, so he has seen some of it. These radiators are 2 of them in the 4 bedrooms are not working. So you can see there's a heater shown in one of the photos. And then if we can keep going down, the right photo here is the basement. The wiring is just a complete mess. Okay, so this is an open coal pit in the basement. The right side is it's a dehumidifier because, you know, we constantly get water in every time it rains. The bulkhead leaks, and you can see the basement is in pretty poor condition from these photos. This is the attic, just showing that you can see the chimney on the left slide has a dark line going down through it. That's a leak. The chimney had the house had no insulation when we bought it, with the exception of the vermiculite between the attic floor and the first floor ceiling. So we added quite a bit of insulation, and it does a little bit, but not much. The plastic is there to keep the leaks from coming through. The house really is not in great condition. It really needs a full gut renovation. I don't know if that's the last slide. Yeah, it appears it is. Okay, so that is the existing house. Those are some of the issues. Again, it's a large lot. The idea is to take advantage of that, move the house away from the road. I had said in my initial application 20 feet back, but I've since decided that 40 feet from where it is would be more advantageous, as well as centering it more in line with the existing lot that is left. And taking the garage and moving it, kind of switching them. So centering the house and moving the garage over toward the westerly side of the lot.
Thank you, Hope. Well, so are you suggesting that you'd like to move the house? Is that what you're proposing?
No,
Too bad.
I don't want to move the house. The house is too small. The house, again, requires a full gut renovation. I don't know if you could move the house in the condition it's in.
Well, so I'd like to hear from some other members of the commission. Michael, your thoughts?
Well, I have been observing the house, traveling toward West Concord for many decades. And it's on a slight rise from the grade of the road, so it's a very attractive home. I will agree that your addition of the shutters and some of the improvements you made really define the character, the architectural character of the house. I'm assuming when you purchased the house that your concept was to remodel it. I'm assuming if the conditions were
That
as
was originally the idea.
if the conditions that you are citing right now. However, I believe it's a very relevant structure architecturally and where it is. And these are the things that we really need to preserve in our community and in many communities in New England. It's a very attractive home. It's a very beautiful home. And I do understand, because I live around the corner and we restored 11 Wood Street, and it did take a long time. And but the structure was built in the early 1800s or the middle 1800s, and with the approach of understanding, we wanted to be part of this very historic community. And I don't know, I know you mentioned Alan, and Alan's a very competent and capable man of integrity. So I don't know what his insight was to you about the condition of the electrical thereof. However, I do believe that many structures like this, including my own, have been restored and can be done with the cost benefit that benefits. Now, I understand you referenced expanding the house. And again, I don't know, I should know the square footage, but I don't know how much bigger you want to make it.
19.
Yeah, and you did reference that the reason the house is close 13 feet from the left lot is they subdivided the lot and built a structure for their child. But I do believe the home is very attractive and very relevant to the historical integrity of this part of Concord.
Thank you, Michael. Alan, do you feel comfortable speaking? Just because you've worked in the house, it actually gives you
I
insight.
didn't mean to put Alan on the spot, excuse me.
Well,
But Alan
Alan's
has done
gonna-
a little electrical work here, so.
No, that's not a problem. Living in town for about 30 years or so, I also make the trip back and forth, from West Concord into the center of Concord, and I love the fact that house is built on a bluff, and you really get to see it when you drive by, and it just kind of jumps out at you. and it's architecturally pleasing to the eye with the chimneys, you know, with the shutters and just the stance on the hill, you know, that it has. When you drive by, it just jumps out at you. It's a beautiful structure, I think. And you know, having worked in the house, there is a little bit of a challenge in terms of the electrical and the mechanicals in the house, but I don't think it's anything that's insurmountable or can't be undertaken. You know, couldn't be fixed in the future, I think. So,
Bob?
I just want to ask you again, what year was it constructed?
There are varying accounts, but I believe it was around 1930.
That's right. That's what I thought. Yeah. So what would we call this? Colonial revival?
Colonial revival.
I would say.
Either or.
yeah.
So, I mean, what we're preserving, I mean, just to be clear on this, if we vote this preferably preserved, is a colonial revival structure of the 20th century, not an early 19th century structure.
Right. It's also, I think, part of what it's the streetscape, that particular area, the house to the, which would be the west, and the Schnipper's house, which is to the east. It appears in the Macros form as part of a group of homes, not individually.
And it really does have a lot of character. The porch is very attractive. It's a very nice statement on that architecture.
I mean, there are a lot of problems with it, as you've enumerated, but structurally, I mean, it still seems to be structurally sound. That's one of the conditions that we would discuss a property, whether or not it should be demolished, if it's structurally unsound. It does not appear to be structurally unsound.
It's not structurally unsound, but it is not in terribly good condition. I build houses for a living, so I'm somewhat familiar with the concepts.
Yeah, it strikes me that you've lived here for a number of years, that you've done cosmetic repairs. That's what it's, or cosmetic additions maybe, but not some of the, repairing some of the eaves.
Systems.
And the electrical system, the heating system.
So I was actually saying earlier that I had intended to do either a full renovation or, move the house. But having lived here for 12 years, I know it's charming. It's appealing to look at when you drive by, but it's very close to the road when you live here. And it is very close to one of my neighbors. And it does not take, the house currently is not taking full advantage of the lot.
It's a large lot, yeah.
That's right.
So that's what's driving the addition, probably, is the increase in the size and the square footage of the house, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any intention of building a huge house. I don't really want it to be more than about 4,000 square feet, but that's double the size that it is now.
Nancy, do you have other comments before I open it up to the neighbors?
I just think I agree with the assessment that the imperfections in the house are not structurally indicative of a need to demolish the house, and there are other options.
Okay.
Bob and Rebecca are also here. I don't know if they commented yet.
Well, Bob just asked a question. Bob, do you have other observations? All right.
No, I actually incline differently. It seems to me a 1930 house that's essentially colonial revival, but not just really distinguished in that, with the faults that have been described. This is a case I think I'd be inclined to go with the homeowner.
And I just want to chime in as well. I think given the amount of hazardous materials, I think that gives weight to the way that I'm trending. And also just to second what Bob just said, where I would feel very differently if this was an actual colonial home versus a 1930 colonial revival. So just to take that into consideration.
Thank you. I would just remind you though, everyone, that a house, it doesn't have, to be a part of the, the fabric of Concord doesn't have to necessarily be a house associated with Thoreau or Emerson. Just
No, and I agree with that. I just, in this particular case, because there's more than just that. I think given the extent of hazardous materials in that presentation and the decay, and also Hope, my sense is that, you do find the house charming. You are aware of sort of the architectural vernacular there. And I imagine that you're going to be sort of sensitive to that in whatever design goes up in place of it. So
Yes, absolutely.
Actually, I do want to know how if this is a question that would run in the other direction of my view, but if it was that intolerable, how'd you live in it for 15 years?
I'm not saying it was intolerable. So I bought the house with the intention of either demolishing it and, moving it or renovating it. That was always my intent. I really bought it for the lot, not the house. The house was a disaster when we moved in. It had been completely neglected for years and years, and some of my neighbors might be able to attest to that. I mean, there were no gutters, there was no driveway, very bad condition. I won't go into some of the details because I'm just going to skip that. But, it was not in great condition. And I had always bought it as, something as a property that I would redo. Like I said, I've been a little busy with other projects.
So we've heard from Rebecca. Alan, anything more comment? And also I just want to ask Heather, because Alan has worked on the house, does that pose any conflict?
It could. I think to err on the side of caution, we would have Alan abstain from voting.
Okay. So then I'd like to open it up to the neighbors. I see the Joyces. Would you care to comment?
Yes, we would comment. We've been living across the street from this house since 1974, when we bought our house, which was just a little ranch, and we extended our house. So we've known 3 families that have lived in that house, and we know the amount that the house has suffered in the past from not being kept up. And we go over there because we're friends, neighbors, and we know and we see the disrepair, and we've worked on our own house, so we know the amount of work that the Beckmans face if they try to bring this house up. And so I'd like to register us as not being opposed at all to the demolition. And so I don't know if you have any questions of us, but that's basically how we feel.
Well, thank you. I mean, neighbors' opinion matters, certainly does to me. Ms. Hamilton, Susan Hamilton, are you there? Maybe she's.
Sorry. Yes, no, I was just unmuting.
Okay.
Yes, I wasn't really prepared to speak.
Well,
but I mean, I'm sort of here just more to get in, just get information about, what's the potential for, developing over there. And I think just my only concern would be the amount of noise and distraction to me is really the thing that, it's just a huge undertaking for a neighbor to to endure. So I don't really have an opinion on the house itself and the structure and what it, really
Okay.
what's appropriate there. But just, interested to know timing and things like that, which probably isn't the purpose of this meeting. So
Can you give us your address for the record?
I'm to the right on the west side. I'm 661. So we are the ones that are closest together.
Okay. Well, thank you. Any other comments before
If I could
we?
just answer Susan there. I
Yep.
could text her, but I'll just answer her so that everybody knows. So the construction, I'm not sure exactly when it will start. It depends on when I wrap up another job I'm working on. But my intention would be to do it, as quickly as I could. I understand that, construction is noisy and so forth, but there was going to be, a time frame regardless of whether I were to renovate the existing house or move it and demolish it. But what I would say is my intention is to build the home start to finish within about 6 months. So it would be fairly quick.
Oh, so you're saying the process would be within 6 months of time it would take?
It would start to finish, pouring the foundation to getting the certificate of occupancy, I expect would be about 6 months.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments? Michael, Nancy, Rebecca, Bob? This one strikes me personally as very difficult because I think what I see is wrong with it can all be fixed. I've owned homes too, and you have cracks and repairs, and you have to upgrade systems. And I've had to remove asbestos, and it's a dollar amount. And time. And we can't ask. It's none of our business what you would be replacing it with, because that is not the case here. All we are tasked to do is to evaluate the property as it
I'm
is.
happy to answer that. It would be
Well,
something.
don't, because it wouldn't. We really should.
I'm going to be very vague. It would be something very tasteful and somewhat similar in terms of the overall look and quality. It's not going to be massive. It's not going to be ostentatious. It's going to be sort of a revival style, more of a Greek revival than a colonial revival.
So that's not really our purview.
Yeah, it's none of our business.
Yeah, well,
we're always curious, but it is none of our business. It's the merits of the house and the project. I don't know, is someone prepared to make a motion? I think this has sort of stumped all of us. It's a lovely home that needs work.
Right.
Which is not unlike many homes.
Yeah, I mean, I would make a statement. I would certainly not vote to allow the structure to be taken down. But, that's my approach on many relevant structures in Concord. That's why I'm on the commission. However, and again, many of us who are developers and builders, as we have been, we know when we buy things that have aged, this one almost 100 years old, is going to have issues that need to be upgraded and sustained. Again, I say, and I emphasize that the rise of the hill, the angle of the house is relevant on that road, and it's very attractive. And it's part and parcel of the character of this part of Concord, and it's not too far from my home. But I'm not biased because of that. I'm biased because I do believe that these are very relevant structures to our community. And I'm assuming when you purchased the house, even though it had a number of these issues, it attracted you for that reason. And our mission is to sustain the character of our community. And I certainly would want to see this house preserved. So if you're looking for me to make a motion, I'm happy to make a motion to preserve it.
Unless there's
But I'm happy to make that motion. to preserve this house and not
Sorry.
issue a demolition permit.
Is there a second? I guess not. So
Yeah.
that motion doesn't, so is there a motion to allow the demolition of this property? Bob,
Yeah, I'll move that.
is there a second for that?
Am I allowed to second, Heather? Or-
Let me see. Come on.
There are four of us.
Yeah, I think because Alan should abstain just because he has had a financial interest in the property, we could move Rebecca up to a full voting member for this
Okay,
hearing.
So then I will second.
I don't agree. I don't agree.
who's that speaking?
Louise Dutka.
Are you a neighbor?
Yes, I am. I,
Oh, well,
but
so welcome to the meeting.
sorry I'm late.
Okay, well, please, if you would identify where your address, please.
37 Florio Drive.
Okay, right around the corner. I know where that, okay. So I've asked other members of the area of neighborhood to please speak, so I would ask you to please speak. We haven't taken a vote yet.
I am in favor of preserving the property. Changing the nature of the street, I think, is harmful to the community. There's a super modern house across the street that is jarring, that does not fit with the rest of the community. I am afraid that the nature of Main Street is going to change drastically, and I do not agree with that.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Is there anyone else who I missed that I'm not aware that you're a neighbor? If you would please identify yourself. Okay, then we go back to Bob's motion. Is there a second for Bob's motion to allow a demolition permit? Second by Rebecca. So all in favor of supporting the demolition of this house, please raise your hand and speak up. I guess I have to poll you. So it'd be Bob is a yes. Rebecca, yes. Michael,
No,
Nancy?
It's hard for me, but I think no.
Yeah, I think no too.
I think no.
Well, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. We can't count your vote, but thank you. So that's 3 against 2. This is one of the harder ones I think we've had, because it's well, at any rate, so the vote would be against demolishing the house at this time, which would mean we would impose a delay of 1 year.
I think there needs to be a motion to find the house preferably preserved then.
Okay, so would someone make a motion that this house should be preferred?
I'll make a motion that we find the house preferably preserved.
Second.
Second, so all in favor of that, Michael,
Aye.
Nancy,
Aye.
Bob,
Well, for the sake of the commission, I'll now vote aye.
Rebecca?
I'd still vote no, but that's what you guys, I
Okay.
understand. It is a tough one.
Yeah, and Melissa, I vote aye. So we do find it preferably preserved. I guess the other discussion, if there was any, sometimes there are conditions that could allow us to amend the timeframe. I'm not sure what that would be. Heather, you have any thoughts?
So what we generally do is that if the applicant is interested in having a further discussion about the waiver process, so the commission has accepted in the past, under certain conditions agreed upon by the commission and the applicant, a waiver for the remainder of the delay. So in the past, sometimes it's been a historic structures report, it's been a modified historic structures report, it's been as simple as floor plans, elevations, professional photographs documenting the structure. So if that's a discussion that I hope you would like to have at a future meeting, you can just send me an email and I can put you on the agenda. And we can have a discussion with the commission about a potential waiver and what we may be able to come to an agreement on.
Okay,
So that would shorten
Sounds
the,
good.
the timeframe.
right.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. This is very difficult.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, the neighbors who have participated this evening. We're very grateful for your participation. Matters what people say. Thank you. So I think we'll go back or move down to the next agenda item, which is the Wright Tavern Preservation Restriction discussion. Hi, Tom. We have Tom's here and Lynn's, it's Spencer, right? Am I got it right? Who is a consultant on this project. So Tom, why don't you take it away?
Sure.
And
Thank you,
you're
Melissa.
muted. There you go.
I'm going to keep my comments really short because I know your time is limited and really the show belongs to two people I'm going to introduce in a second. The purpose of our time right now with you is to review the preservation restriction document and the materials and to kind of show you where we are in the development of this process. And then what we would do is finish the work that's involved in this and get your decision to approve or not approve it at the next meeting, which would be on April 14th. So tonight is really just to review what we've done at this point in time. So I introduced two people who are going to speak for us. One is Nadia McCarthy from Dresser McCarthy. She is a partner in a law firm. She has been our attorney who has been fabulous at drafting a document, which I find I've read a lot of legal documents in my life. This was a very readable document and it captures a lot of the spirit of what we are intending. So she and her team has put together the written document and would also shepherd this thing through the town manager, if it approves from everyone, to the town manager and to the Mass Historical Commission, et cetera. The content of that, there really is identification of really what the critical historical elements are really led by Lynn Spencer. And I want to just a shout out to Lynn and her team. We've hired Lynn to really become the project leader for our whole effort, just period. And it is all the work that we all as a group have been talking about now is in some way shouldered upon Lynn and her team to both do the historical inventory of historical elements, to do the work with us in drafting what the design and use will be of the building, and then in setting up how we actually go about the implementation of the renovations or changes we make into the building. So she has got a tremendous amount of experience in working with historical buildings, and she's a great person to work with. So I'm going to ask her to speak some about what her team has been doing. So I want to turn right now to Nadia to explain a bit about the document, and then let you kind of parlay it over to Lynn, and we'll be here for questions.
Thank
Sure.
you.
I'm Nadia McGurthy. I'm the attorney for the Wright Tavern Legacy Trust. And they had asked me to prepare the preservation restriction for this property. I believe you all have a copy of the draft that is our work in progress. It is the standard template that's used by the Mass Historical Commission. And in terms of what sort of, where you might want to draw your attention, sort of sections 2 and 3 are really where the meat of this is. And I would say clearly, the fabulous job that Lynn and her team did on Exhibit C. And then Exhibit E are the restriction guidelines, which sort of are examples of what would be considered minor and major modifications. A minor modification would be something that the first parish could do without getting prior approval, whereas a major one would require a submission of the plans and then an approval process by the historical commission in the town. So I don't want to keep this long because I feel like Lynn is sort of the star of this in terms of she's really done the real work. And I'm happy to talk about any parts of this, but this is an exterior and an interior preservation restriction, which is highly relevant. And there are designated parts of the interior, and Lynn has started the process of cataloging that and can talk about those parts. But it is a fairly, it's a standard template that Mass Historical Commission uses, and then really get into the particulars when you look at what actually is being protected. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
I think we could just proceed with Lynn, as your explanation. First of all, thank you so much, because from where we started a year and a half ago, come a long way.
Long way.
And I think we're speaking for myself, very pleased that you're involved and that the documentation that you will be providing, the other consultants that Tom you brought on board. So thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I think I've had too glowing a recommendation, so all I can do is hit the ground now. But it is a pleasure to be in front of this board. Actually, as a historical commission member in my own community, it's been very interesting and instructive to listen to what I've just listened to for the last half hour. So,
I hope so.
A short introduction. I began my career at what is now Historic New England, but I was director of properties at what was then the Society for the Preservation of New England Antiquities. And some of you may remember way back in the late 70s and the early 80s, Spinnea went through a very deliberate process of evaluating its historic properties and making the tough decision to deaccession some of those properties. And the key to the deaccessioning process was developing a preservation restriction, and ultimately what is now known as the easement program. For many years, it was known as the stewardship program, but developing a preservation restriction program that would ensure the protection of important historic features, both inside and outside these historic properties, oftentimes including elements on the landscape. So I was part of the team that actually developed the methodology for evaluating those properties and then setting up what got restricted and in what way. So I'm bringing that kind of toolkit to this and attitude to this particular project. The Wright Tavern is an exciting building to be involved with, and I think all of you have been aware of it and concerned about it for some time. So earlier this year, the Wright Legacy Trust issued an RFP. My firm, which is the Spencer Preservation Group, responded to it. And after a process, we were selected to work with the Legacy Trust. One of the first things they said to us is, we really need to have you focus on identifying the critical elements in this building and helping draft a preservation restriction. There's a high level of expectation by the Community Preservation Committee, as well as the Historical Commission, based on concerns for the protection of this property. There are plans to actually take it through a process of evaluating its future use and interpretation. But we need to make sure that and I'm now speaking for Tom and his board, we need to make sure that the Wright Tavern is properly preserved and properly understood. Now, one of the things that has a lot of people excited is the 18th century history of this building, especially that history related to the provincial Congress, the eve of the battle, all of that. That's what people really remember. But my team and I, and those who preceded us, go through this building now and realize that in terms of architectural development, it represents not only 18th century, but early 19th century, mid 19th century, some early 20th century architectural modifications. Well, why was it modified? Well, the same reason all houses or buildings are modified: changing tastes, changing needs, changing configuration. So what I was fortunate in doing is I inherited, or my team inherited, previous work that had been done on this building. One was the Historic Structures Report produced in 2014 by the Ground Root Group. Other research that has been done, we were guided through the building by Larry Sorley, who is a consultant, an advisor to the Legacy Trust. Larry was a colleague of mine way back in the Spinia days. So we've had a lot of good time kind of poking and prodding and looking at this building. So what we have started to do is to do the evaluation of the building, working with our great friend and consultant, Bill Finch of Finch and Rose. And so the photographic template, and I don't know, Heather, if you want to put that on the screen, if that's possible.
Which exhibit was that one?
I think that will be Exhibit C with the attachment.
All right, that's it.
Yeah.
So there we go. So we have actually, with Bill Finch, Doug Manley, my colleague, my partner, and myself has started to sort of go through the building. And this is, if you will, a catalog of what we in my business call character defining features. And character defining features can, as I suggested, represent, not only early material or original material, but later material as well. This happens to be, and we're using a floor plan and as a guide. So if you look in the lower right-hand portion of this page, you'll see a sort of a red outline, which indicates the room that is being shown on this page happens to be the southeast room. This room has got woodwork that we think actually dates to probably the Jarvis era of ownership. After Amon Wright sold or died in 1792, it passed on to Francis Jarvis, and during that period, the Jarvis period, roughly from 1793 to 1824, this place was flourishing as a home and a bakery. And it's likely that this woodwork, which is really 1780-ish and later, is probably related to Jarvis. But what we're doing is sort of identifying the paneling, the woodwork, the window and door casings, and Bill is describing it in narrative, and then I went through and extracted from it, a line item, a per line item, which is shown in Exhibit C. And what we'll be doing is then taking that list of things, that per room list of things, and then actually identifying, and then sort of clearly, if I can get the furniture moved, rephotographing these rooms, and then calling out on the pictures themselves those elements that are subject to the preservation restriction. And then again, as part of the exhibit, there will be the floor plans themselves, so you can locate yourself in the room. The whole key to a preservation restriction is identifying what's important, showing where it is, and then allowing somebody 20 years from now who is actually involved in reviewing the state of the building and perhaps doing some enforcement on the preservation restriction to know where they are and to know what's important. And so we went through this room by room on the first floor of the building. Heather, if you can just sort of scroll down through this, you'll see that there's close-ups. We're not only identifying woodwork, we're identifying hardware. Some hardware is early, but some is later, but it still adds to the character of the building. So we think those kinds of things are important. In some areas, we've identified what's original plaster or early plaster and what is later wallboard. So later wallboard, we're not protecting. Earlier plaster, we are protecting because we think it's part of the fabric of the building that's important. You're getting a little bit of a detail here of a federal period mantle in what's labeled as room 102. You're seeing the fireplace hearth, which we think is important to protect. In this particular, in some rooms, we've got later floorboards on top of older floorboards. So we're not protecting, the mid 20th century flooring, but we are protecting the earlier flooring. So we are taking the attitude that this is not just a relic, but it is in fact a building that does need to live and breathe. And so some things will need to be at some points updated or adapted. So when we're thinking about where those that updating or adaptation can take place, let's do it in part of the building that has not been, is not so tightly tied to the 18th and 19th century character, but is really part of the later 20th century modifications. By the way, everything in this building has been painted white on the first floor. So part of what we are doing is we're looking at how we're evaluating earlier fabric. We're using some paint scrapings just to sort of cross identify things. And that is giving us a sense of some of the color and character that was part of the heritage of this place. Can you go to Exhibit C for a second? Oh, there's a hand up there. Yeah, so that's Exhibit C is where I actually just start. If you just scroll down a little bit, if you look at that, you start seeing, the specific sort of word identification that, as I said, then gets tied to the photographs and the floor plans. We have done the first floor in a hard working draft. We're now embarked on the second and third floor, as well as the cellar, because there are elements in the cellar that we think are important to protect. Obviously, the frame itself is protected, and in some cases the casings, and then on the exterior of the building, the exterior is protected. Of course, that's also protected by the historic district as well. So I'd love to hear questions and comments.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, Lynn, this is great. And I just wanted to add a couple of things. I don't know if you know this, that John Stacy kept a bookstore for a time in there. And he was also maintaining the library of the Concord Charitable Library Society, and then later the Concord Social Library. So it might be worth trying to figure out where that was. As much as it was a domestic dwelling, clearly a lot of strangers had access to it.
Well, in fact, I didn't go through the whole sort of history of ownership, but after Jarvis, there were multiple tenants in this building and lots of different uses. The bookshop, a saddlery, all kinds of things were going on until in the 1890s, it became, a place of, it returned to the place of hospitality of the 18th century. It became an inn and restaurant. So there's a lot of things that went on here. And as we think about, the goals of the Legacy Trust today to really sort of explore and have dialogue about democracy and what it means to be a citizen, what it means to have, think about what your civic responsibilities are. We'll recall some of those things from the tavern, but we're not thinking necessarily of a, we think that the tavern and the later story are clues. They may be the ghosts that you were mentioning earlier, Dr. Gross, as we think about, reviving these things. But this is also a place for living dialogue and living expression.
What I was thinking about has to do with that moment of transition from a public house that is a tavern to a private house, a dwelling. And one of the things that's tied up with that is important for interpretation is that people may come in and say, gee, how come it stopped being a tavern? And one good answer, I think, is that Jarvis came to Concord was brought from Dorchester by John Richardson of Watertown. And Richardson ends up being the guy who constructs across the mill dam the Middlesex Hotel and Tavern.
Hmm.
And so I think when Richardson figures out his plans, Jarvis decides, he'll go into the tavern and turn it into the bakery. And the hotel, the Middlesex Hotel that then develops is an important meeting place and ornament of the new Republic of America. And the Wright Tavern is the old colonial period. And so it's worth taking into account more than the Wright Tavern to understand the changing function of that tavern building.
Thank you.
Heather, could you remove the slide share and so we could see everybody? Because thank you. Just want to make sure to keep our discussion going. Thank you, Bob.
I can see that we'll all want to be spending a lot of time at your elbow, Dr. Gross.
Exactly.
He's just showing off all that he knows, which is immense.
Well, I've just started the second, the second. I finished your first book on Concord. Now I'm in.
It was quicker, yes.
I'm into the second. It's a good start of the day, I'm finding. How's that?
Good.
Nancy, Nancy, you had a comment.
Yeah, that's a very big book, Bob. Congratulations.
Yeah.
I'd just like to say, first of all, thanks to Tom, where's Tom? And the Wright Tavern people for their patience through all this. But I am absolutely thrilled that at this point, we have professionals engaged in the analysis of the tavern and the documentation. And I'm so relieved to see that. I have a question. We suggested early on, I was formerly with the National Park here, and an archaeologist who's now there is married to a guy with Feldman Surveyors, and they do a remarkable kind of LiDAR documentation of buildings and including interiors. I think if it's useful to you, I think they'd be interested in documenting the interior of the tavern with that technology. So if it's useful. And then the other thing is, before I retired, there was an envelope full of paint samples from the windows that were deemed to be most historic. A person from the National Park Service took those samples. They were in my office when I retired, not clear where they are now, but they might be able to be useful at some point in the future. So I'm really happy, Tom, I'm really happy to see this. I feel.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Nancy. We are happy too. We're ecstatic at working with the team.
And Larry and I were colleagues for years.
Yeah. No, he certainly has mentioned that, Nancy, and I've heard about you. Believe me.
I'm sorry.
I actually work with Feldman. I have Feldman doing a couple of projects right now. So they're a great firm to work with.
And they do some pro bono work and a National Historic Landmark. I mean, come on, probably.
That's a great point. I'll appeal to their pro bono side. I do fund some of their commercial sides, so then I can say, okay, now you can give a little, okay?
They did something for the Colonel James Barrett House. I actually haven't seen it, but I've seen some of the other work that they've done. It's really, really documentation within like a quarter of an inch of accuracy of detail. I mean, it's cool.
It's very, very cool. Not that we're really going to be changing much, but what we're trying to, when we think about introducing systems, we're trying to do it in what I call a tactful way. How can we do these things in a very modest way? There were pretty significant alterations in terms of room layouts, walls being changed and so on. That, we're functional. I mean, what happened is after the property was given to the first parish, the first parish, like the previous owners, were trying to find ways of supporting the property. So,
They put the sunroom on, for example, in 1925. So one thing that, Melissa, you've been really generous with your team's time. And as I mentioned, that the purpose of tonight was really to both introduce Nadia, introduce Lynn, show what we're doing, and to explain what the documents are that were posted on your website. So we just want to make sure that we are working in concert with what you guys would want us to do as we go through this. The work is not completed, as Lynn mentioned. We still have to do the second, third floors, and as well as the basement, and then put that together in the document itself, and we try to have that ready for you by before you meet on the 14th. It's a little tough, but it's a lot of work to be done. Because we want to move forward with this and move forward with the CPC as well, and then move forward with all the approvals that we have to get through. But,
right. So my understanding, you'd like to get this all wrapped up before town meeting. Is that right?
Absolutely right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I do have a question. Maybe it's a minor thing, that the preservation agreement is with the town of Concord. That would be the select board. I'm just asking this, which is like the Thoreau Farm Trust is with the select board, not with historical commission. I guess I'm asking you, Heather, is this something that we would want to ask of the select board, whether or not we would be somehow named or not?
I think that's a discussion you can have with the Right Tavern folks and the select board.
Yeah.
Our understanding, and Nadia, you probably like to speak to this more, is that the town has the legal authority to approve the agreement. So it's with the town, because the committee may come or go. And then, but the administration of that agreement is with you. And not with CPC,
that is accurate.
not with planning board, but with you all.
Yeah, that makes sense. That
makes sense, but that actually isn't spelled out here. Does that, or is it presumed, or does it need to be actually written?
It's typically not written. It's typically that the town delegates that responsibility to the historical commission, because they're really, you kind of think of who's the body that is really in the best position to administer the enforcement mechanism. So that's typically how it works. It's not typically spelled out in the document.
Okay, I'm not, just curious. So is that something we need to formally ask of the select board, or just the presumption is that it would be the administration of this would be delegated to the historical commission?
We should have that conversation.
I mean, it feels to me like we should ask the select board.
Yeah, we should talk to them about it probably.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we can, Melissa, you and I can reach out to Linda, because I believe she's our liaison.
Yeah, she's usually here. She's not here tonight, but
right, to have that initial conversation.
Okay,
perfect.
Hello.
Is that Linda?
It's Linda. Yes, I am here.
Oh, hello. You represented by a little phone tonight.
Okay.
So did you hear what?
I did.
Okay.
And I'd be happy to raise that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for Tom or Lynn or
Nadia?
McGorth. I too echo what Nancy. I'm very impressed. It's really exciting that it'll get treated properly, and I can imagine some terrific exhibits that you would come as a result of this.
Yeah.
And the whole history of the town, which you, Tom, when you took us through, recited, but it would be nice to see that in print ultimately.
Yeah, definitely. And let me just say, if as you go through these documents and reports, if you we want to look at getting any kind of inputs or changes, if there are questions anytime, get to us. But I'm looking to by April 11th, that gives us a few days before your meeting. If there's anything we need to have done differently than what we're presenting, to get those to me, I will make sure it gets to Nadia and to Lynn, and just to make sure that we have a deadline for getting any kind of inputs for you all, so we're not scrambling for something at the last minute. So I just so put a April 11th tickler, if you would, in terms of any kind of changes, inputs, or questions, or whatever.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate that.
Bob?
Nothing. Oh,
Yeah, I just wanted to suggest something that I could volunteer to try to check for you. when you're looking at that property, both before when it's a tavern and then immediately afterwards when Jarvis is running his big house, try to find out if any people of color live there. And I would go to the US Census, federal census from 1790 and then each decade, which won't list the names of anybody but the householder, but will indicate if any people of color are living in the house. That would just, because it was not uncommon with taverns for Blacks to be employed as servants or working men in the house. And so that would add, greatly, I think, to the interest about the property.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have one last curiosity about what was the function of the part of the tavern that was actually demolished and lost, and where it's always been a mystery to me that there was a tavern there because the rooms were so small. And I'm curious about what happened to that side addition, but that'll come out in the wash, I think.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because, at the time that it was sold at auction in 1875, it's described as a mansion house with 22 rooms, a large stable, and a carriage house.
A mansion.
A mansion.
Two little tiny rooms.
They could have been very tiny rooms, but to Dr. Gross's point, to me, the attic space, the third floor space is very interesting.
Yeah,
I thought that's where actually I thought rooms to let were up in the attic.
Yes, there was. And there was a very funky little toilet room up there as well with you can see where the tank was on the wall still. But I find that a very interesting space. And the basement, the cellar spaces, I'm working on a house in Newport now from the 18th century, from 1709 and modified later on. And the records there are very clear about the slaves who were living in the house and in very simple conditions. They usually were bedded down in the kitchens, sometimes in the cellars. So, it's very likely that there were people of color. Living.
That would be
Very
interesting.
likely.
So,
Thank you. Thank you all very, very much. This is really wonderful. This is great history. Yes,
I
Nadia.
apologize. Can I ask a question just because I've got the Historical Commission and I've got, I think, public representatives here. What I haven't seen here, and I could have asked Tom this separately, but I figure since we're here, I might as well ask. Typically, there would be a town council looking at this as well. So I don't know if there's a point at which, you're going to put this in front of, the town's attorney. But, at some point that should happen because we will need that back and forth as well.
yeah.
Yes, that'll happen.
Okay.
That'll probably happen after the CPC meeting, I would think, getting approval from them. And then following that, probably the town meeting, whatever, but in May.
Right, yeah,
You
so
wouldn't sign
the
this
condition,
before that.
the condition of the CPC approving the funding this year was that the Historical Commission approves the PR and the CPC approves the PR, and that it's ready to, continue on the process prior to town meeting. So after it's approved by CPC and, town meeting happens shortly after, then we'd send it to the select board and town council and follow through with the process from there.
Okay, great. I don't like being the only attorney on.
Thank you. Well, thank you all very, very much. I think that's it. We'll see you on April 14th. Right?
That's good.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Night all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so we move on to the Aspen River Bluff project notification form. You all got this letter, which is really just what it is, a notification. Very interesting. So does this mean there may be some archaeological work done here eventually? If there was money to do it?
I think possibly, but I think what they were saying was most of the archaeological area would probably be on what's going to be open space and preserved anyways.
Yeah, but eventually it would be nice
left
to be-
undisturbed.
Yeah, or some eventual research. Okay, so we're not expected to do anything, right? It's just to let us know.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that it came in the mail.
Thank you. Thank you. Was it interesting? Okay, so next item is in your packet. I know this is sort of last minute. Nancy's draft letter, that really is a letter from us that would go to the Federal Highways folks and the Mass Department of Transportation. Also, we included a letter that came from the Historical Commissions of Lincoln and Lexington. I think you'll note that there's quite a difference in what they want and what we want, or what we object to and what they support. But I mostly want to concentrate on Nancy's letter, because we had promised them that we would submit that by Monday. So if there's anyone has any objection or needs a clarification about what has been written.
Or if you want the short version.
From you? I mean, I've read it. Nancy and I've talked about this. And I also, Nancy, as you know, is the chair of this Battle Road Scenic Byway Committee, which is made up of the different communities through which Route 2A, the Battle Road, flows.
And
So-
it goes, hopefully now all the way out to Barrett's Farm. So it runs, the Battle Road Scenic Byway and the All-American Road runs all the way out there at some point, if not already.
I hope that they don't expect any splitter islands out there along an old road.
I think this letter, for those of you who are not steeped in the Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act, this letter is designed to really speak to some of those concerns and tenets. And I've been advised, or I've been in contact with the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation in Washington, D.C., which is directly affiliated with the Section 106 process. And they have given me some suggestions for adding to this this draft letter specifically. Now, if I can find it. There it is. One of the most important things about the 106 consulting process is that everybody, including the consulting parties and the historical commissions are consulting parties, remains collaborative and offer constructive alternatives to what they're seeing. And so they asked for maybe a little bit more detail on what kinds of designs would fit in better with the historical scene. And I haven't had a chance to do that yet, but there are plenty of things to recommend. And I could either add that to this letter or have it as an attachment that could be approved at some point in time. But I think it's some simple things like instead of the raised structures, at grade structures, instead of flashing lights and solar panels and raised islands, they could be at grade, they could be narrower. Stop signs could be used instead of these structural elements that are so heavy in the land. And so I think those things would be easy to add, and they would be within the scope of the meaning of this draft letter.
The thing would ask about that, though, is that we, at least I, object to those in the first place. That's if we have to compromise, right?
No, this might be other ways to achieve the methods of slowing traffic. It's not trying to redesign around the edges of the things that are the most concerning, which are these massive raised structures in the middle of the road because Mass Highway has always talked about a phase 1 and a phase 2. And at the section 106 meeting, I think all of you were there, many of you. The guy who's in charge of cultural resources for Mass Highway declared that there is no phase 2. But
Right.
I think we need to be alert to the fact that road widening was considered, moving stone walls was mentioned, more of these raised structures, signalization along the road, the kinds of things that would turn what is now a really simple road that maintains a lot of the scenic appeal, especially when the maintenance along the road and in the national park are up to par. So those are the things in phase 2 that will, I expect that we will see those things come back. But they will not be called phase 2. They'll be
Right.
called another historic, they'll be called another standalone project.
Okay.
And
So-
this is naive and ignorant on my part, but how do we get them to see our point of view, Nancy?
I think this section 106 process is the most effective way to get the attention of Mass Highway. And because it's 80% federally funded, this project, the Federal Highway Administration needs to pay attention. And the Advisory Council in Washington, D.C., while sadly it's just advisory, and the person that I had been in contact with has said, please copy me on this letter so that everybody knows that they're paying attention and watching. I think that's very important. So I think we're in the right place. It's very important that the historical commissions are seen as an integral part of these kinds of processes when there's federal investment of any kind. So that's excellent. The other thing is, oh, I lost my train of thought because I saw Bob's hand. It's Bob's fault.
Well, Bob, why don't you speak while Nancy collects her train? Bob?
Yeah, I thought the draft is great, but I have a couple questions and implicitly a suggestion to strengthen it. Question is this: is this a matter of policy choices in which we can urge something and another group, Lexington or Lincoln, has its own priorities and a decision's made? Or is this a matter of violation of either the rules of procedure or violation of the laws and standards?
Well,
And
yeah.
because that's not clear to me. If it is a violation, then we ought to be forthright and not just make suggestions for other policy choice.
Well, the interesting thing, I think, yes, it's the process that's been followed in developing this project. The process has missed some very important landmarks, like historical commissions are supposed to be involved at the beginning of the formulation of projects like this, where there's federal involvement and particularly where there's a national park, where there's an all-American road, which is a national designation by federal highways. So the local district folks sort of missed the opportunity to engage people when they should have. So they're trying to make up for that now. I think a lot of thought has gone into whether it doesn't make. I finally became convinced of this, that it may not make as much sense to document the failures in process as it is to jump hard on the process going forward. And I think that's what we're trying to do, is to strengthen the voice of the historical commissions.
Right.
Lexington has supported, and this letter supports the position of the national park, which has been very carefully researched with federal highways people, and you know, the National Park Service wrestles with these issues all the time, how to balance historic preservation and environmental preservation with safety and access. So the superintendent, the new superintendent's letter is very well documented.
Yeah, you should all have that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing in relation to this is, I take it what you're saying, Nancy, essentially is the transportation people, to solve problems, always want to do more new technology. And you think that older technologies can be used more effectively in a less obtrusive way. Is
I
that right?
wouldn't say that. I think this proposal for these really heavy structures is sort of what the district folks are used to doing. They're not used to, there have been really no alternatives examined for the last couple of years to that solution. It works some of the time it doesn't. So other things that help would be reducing speed limit. They hate to do that. They have some ways to encourage reduced speed limits without doing these studies that they're now re-examining, because they result often in increased speeds when they do these speed studies. Things that are more at grade, things that are more narrow. For instance, if these big structures were narrower and more at grade, it would leave more space and safety for bicyclists and pedestrians who might be stranded alongside. But I think there are options that would meet the goals of safety for pedestrians and bicycles better, while at the same time preserving the character of the national park. The steel-backed wood guardrails, for instance, are placemaking. They help people understand that they're in a special place. Roadside maintenance by Mass Highway and by the national park are very important towards reminding people where they are. There are granite markers along Route 2A that were installed in 1996 or something that begin to be recognized as something special along that road. So those are the kinds of things that could make this gentler on the land.
So I would suggest that what you like, some of the things you've just said, use them as topic sentences that lead into the, because I found at times I got caught up in the detail, and what you just said was really good topic sentences that would help me and other readers instantly get the principle you're following for safety and historical recognition and design.
I think what you're saying is very much in line with the suggestions that the advisory council person made. She said maybe you'd like to specifically lay out what are the character defining features and what areas might fit, what things might fit better. So I think those are pretty well aligned. I'm trying to do that. I must tell you, it's really in the weeds. It's a very technical exercise to define the character defining features of a landscape or a road or a building. So I can't do that, but I can get the sense of it. So I'm going to try to add that in.
So I guess what I would like a sense of them, I don't know if I have to get a vote, sense of the rest of you could, because this has to get done between now and Monday. If you accept that Nancy and Heather and I will work on this and hope that we make you happy because we're going to submit it on Monday. Would that be acceptable?
Sure.
I mean,
are you adding this extra document as an amendment, or are you going to modify the verbiage on the letter that Nancy referenced?
I'm not sure. I
Okay.
really want to go back. I've gone back to all the National Park Service and national guidance about the definition of this, that, and it's really, I'm going to try to condense it, you know.
Certainly.
Patching it as an addendum and might be easier.
Right.
Yeah.
In terms of
But
getting to the
it would
top.
make it simpler.
Yeah, it might.
It'd be easier to read.
Yeah, Yeah.
if you
and
want to,
then
as Bob
understand
says,
To
make your
Bob's point.
points.
Yeah, to Bob's point.
The other thing, when I told them that we were going to submit this, I also asked, what happens, because now we have 3 historical commissions. We're on one position. I think Lexington is inclined to our side. Lincoln is very much not.
Right.
I asked, what happens when the 3 of them don't agree? How do you resolve that? Because it does matter what the local historical commissions say. And he said he would get back to us. He didn't have an answer, he being Shrimpton,
Oh,
guy for Federal Highways.
You've just mentioned something that I think I would like to talk, suggest that is part of this letter. Please respond to the earlier questions about how disagreements about.
Okay, so that's another thing to put in here.
That's a sentence. That's a sentence. Thank you.
Why does Lincoln have such a different point of view from ours? Is there something about their being closest on the scene to all the accidents? Is it their commitment to their own residents' use of recreational space? Well, I couldn't figure that out.
I can't figure it out. I think that these, the crosswalks, for instance, don't make any sense to me as pedestrian crossings.
Right.
They often don't connect to safe paths on either side of the road. The park is not happy where they're landing in the park. Some of the places they're landing go down 25% slopes or into a wetland buffer. But I think what the Lincoln Historical Commission chair told me was Lincoln wants to slow down traffic. And these, so one of the people on the byway said, yeah, and the way you slow down traffic is once they get on the side of the road, the cars hit them. So that's very cynical.
I still say, I don't see enforcement. I do not see,
Right.
I don't see a Lincoln police.
No.
I don't see the Rangers.
Yeah, enforcement's definitely another way to influence the safety along a road.
As I said to Nancy today, I have driven that road for 40 years and I probably go over the speed limit every time and I have never gotten a ticket.
And you don't see pedestrians.
Right.
Oh, and yet,
Very rare, extremely
rare. Again, the point, I thought the point of the Battle Road Trail was to get people into the landscape off the road and to see the historic, to have a sense of what the historical landscape looked like at the time of the Revolution. That's why they built it. The project from day, anyway, that's.
Anyway, so I think with responding to the advisory council and taking to heart, what Bob has said about topic sentences, maybe that argues more for an attachment. I'll look hard and see. I might be able to condense that, but you don't want the letter to be too long.
No.
And-
So if that's okay with everyone, the other thing, Nancy and I do have to go before the select board on Monday to brief them on the status of all of this. Because they are interested in what's going on and want to know how they can be of help.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Linda. That little phone on this screen.
If we could get like a motion authorizing Nancy and Melissa and myself to finalize drafting the letter and submit it on behalf of the commission, that would be helpful.
Okay, so I get a motion from someone?
So moved, yeah.
So move. I'll second it.
All in favor, Bob,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Melissa, Nancy? Aye, Melissa, yes. So yes. Thank you, Heather. Thank you for that.
Thanks, everybody. Back to work.
Yeah,
Where's the dog, Melissa? I got used to the dog coming to these meetings.
here's her toy. She's asleep. She joined us at the beginning. Yeah. So a couple of things, I just have a couple of announcements before we go to the next thing. Just to say that the town or the state, I guess, has authorized Zoom meetings through July 15th. So I will presume that the April and May meetings will be via Zoom, and June, unless there's any objection. I also like to point out that Heather's last day, I believe, is May 2nd.
And my last full day.
So
Oh, good.
does this mean, though, because you're going to stay on in some sort of fashion, will you?
Yeah, I'm gonna stay on as like a special project consultant for the month of May and like the first 2 weeks of June.
Are we one of your special projects?
Yes. I'll probably still be working in the same capacity. It was mainly an issue of needing to get insurance switched over. I currently hold the family's insurance plan and wanting to get it switched over and all set before I potentially go into labor. So
Yeah.
Okay, that's a
Good
good
idea.
idea. Okay,
I
Thank
can't work full time. I needed to lose my benefits. So
okay,
that's why my last full day is May 2nd.
Complicated.
yeah, okay, so we don't lose you completely.
Right.
Good, okay. And then I just want to
All right.
remind everybody to vote on April 12th.
Yes.
That's voting day. And also whether or not we want to support any of the warrant articles, if we officially wanted to take a position on any other than our own scenic road bylaw.
Oh, boy.
I've looked through it. I don't actually see anything that would suggest we would. So I just throw that out, but I didn't see anything. The other thing is I will be presenting or at least answering questions to the select board either on Monday or April 4th about the scenic road bylaw. And also have been asked, the Historic Districts Commission is officially going to support our bylaw. They do wanted to know if I could appear before them April 7th. Heather, you and I had sort of talked about the 21st, so I don't quite know where it is now because
Yeah, the chair wants to move forward with April 7th. He doesn't think that it's necessary for you to attend. He thinks that the bylaw itself, the fact sheet, everything kind of speaks
Okay.
for itself.
Okay, so they don't, that's fine. Okay, good, because I won't be here. Okay, Jack,
You won't be here?
not the 7th, I'm going to Florida,
That's good to know.
yeah. And I don't have very good internet service down there. It's Ron DeSantis's fault. So updates, other updates, anybody have any comments from their different observer assignments?
Well, I've just been looking at them, a lot of signs at the Historic District Commission meeting. Haven't really found anything with regard to the corner of Lowell Road and Barrett's Mill. Nothing, Mike Bushnell hasn't really come back with anything, and it just keeps getting postponed and nothing's really happening there, at least that I've seen.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So I've heard about this, the bank on Walden Street. Is that that's the one?
Concord Co-op, the old Concord Co-op Bank?
Main Street, it's a Main Street, right?
It's not on Main Street, it's on Walden Street, I think you
Oh,
mean.
you're right,
Nancy.
you're right.
Right, the old
Walden
bank,
Street.
the old church that's been sitting idle that they want to turn
Well,
into.
it's a
That
brick.
was the church? Oh, how about that?
And they want to put a bank there, but they're not, there's too many banks in town as it is. So that got kind of pushed on the back burner as far as I know. So they're back to the drawing board to see what else they can put there.
They could make it a real estate agency.
I think that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, have you seen the drawings? It's there on the HDC website, right?
Okay, again, okay, but that's not, we can't vote on that. I'm just trying to get,
It's just interesting, given, it's just interesting.
yeah. Any other comments, observations, things?
Kind of a lot of activity at the Tobin property on Lowell Road. Big trucks and whatnot following the things that look like demo trucks. So maybe the film crew's coming back, not sure. I'll keep an eye out.
Thank you. Well then, okay, how about since Heather got these in, were you able, all of you, to read the minutes that Heather submitted from our last meeting? From February 10th?
Maybe not.
I read them.
You read them? Did you?
I read them.
Any
No,
amendments,
everything's fine.
changes? I thought they
No,
I have them. I think I read them. Hang on.
yeah,
I don't think.
I do, Heather, it's a lot of work and I'd like to be able to approve them so that we can put them up. Because some
Yeah.
committees are pretty behind and.
I didn't have anything.
Okay, so may I get a motion to approve the minutes of February 10th?
sure. I make a motion to approve the minutes of February 10th.
Second? Thank you,
Second.
Nancy. So all in favor, Bob,
Aye.
Alan, Michael,
Aye.
Nancy,
I
Melissa, aye. Thank you. So all in favor, yes. So I think with that, does any other final comments?
As long as Linda's on the line, I think one thing that I learned recently, and Heather and I have talked a little bit about it, is when I became chair of the Scenic Byway. I was told by the outgoing chair that Concord was now the fiscal agent for the Byway, and we learned today that that there are grant making opportunities, and the grant requests from the Scenic Byway might go for $500,000. So I think we should maybe find out a little bit more about that.
Well, what would you be asking money for to fund?
Well, we have to figure that out in the next 3 days.
Can we find something?
Not yet. Did we find something to do?
Can we find some?
Oh, can we find something for the
Yes.
Byway?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll send
So
you.
to hire a lawyer to defeat the federal highway plan?
No.
Oh.
No, we have to collaborate on that. I'll send you some information, Ellen, if you're interested in how this works.
Mhm.
Okay. Bob?
Yeah, if this is area for new business, if that's what you're seeking out, I wonder, is the Historical Commission going to formally play a role in the planning for the 250th anniversary of the battle?
No, that's a very good question.
It would seem to me, I mean, I may be stepping down, but just, as a member now, that this is a role that a Historical Commission ought to assume, if not the leadership, at least play a part. And this was on my mind because I've got to pass this along to Tom from the Wright Tavern Committee. In my research, I noticed recently that when Concord marked the 75th anniversary of the battle in 1850, it succeeded in bringing the entire legislature and governor and executive branch out to Concord for the day to mark the event. Well, 250 is a lot more than 75. And it strikes me that that's the kind of idea that, I mean, I had, but the, historical commissions could spearhead. And I've just wondered, is this going forward entirely without our participation with some other agency of the town?
Well, I might ask Linda to help us on this one, but I thought there is a committee that has been formed and probably some subcommittees. Linda, can you help with this? Maybe she stepped away, but I know that the town has a committee. I thought Linda was on it. Also, there's public ceremonies and celebration, which is, I believe, charged with aspects of this. But, it's a good point.
My husband's involved in one of those somewhere. I think on the state commission, and they just met for the first time. So I think people are very late in kind of getting started for anything really big. I know the Lincoln Historical Society is very interested in this, and they've had some experience with with something like this, but
Well, we could then take a slogan, early in opposition to the British, late in commemorating.
how can we not be involved?
Well, I take your point very seriously. I feel like we ought to do something. Okay, how about this as a parting shot, Bob? You come up with some ideas, because I think, we should. It is a very big deal. And
It just seemed to, I was asking, if I were involved in something, I'd undoubtedly come up with ideas. But I think the larger point is, shouldn't the Historical Commission have some role in this?
well,
I would think so.
I would think so. I don't know if they've convened any public meetings, again, well, I think we'll need to ask Linda, perhaps at another time.
Also, the National
Yeah.
Park is thinking about this too, and that would be a great way to establish a connection with the national park among the people on the Historical Commission. I think we're logically concerned about the same things often.
Yeah, so I think we just need to think about if there's a role for us and what that would be, what we could bring to this or help create or make happen.
Bob
Because-
needs to stay on the commission.
Yes, so that's why I said, Bob, you've made an argument to stay on.
He's pretending not to hear you.
I'm with Linda on the phone.
I can see you. Okay, I think enough. So, but we will look into that. Yes, yes. Especially since I have to step down as chair in May. So I think that would be nice for whoever is the next. At any rate, so I think, do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Didn't we already vote?
No,
did.
we moved to,
Okay, I make a motion to adjourn.
I have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Michael. All in favor? Bob,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Nancy,
I
Melissa, yes. Thank you. Good night, Heather. Good night, everybody. Thank you very,
Good
very
night,
much.
everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Linda.
Good night.